The handcuffs clicked around my wrists so tightly that I could feel the cold steel digging into my skin. My 8-year-old daughter burst into tears. "Daddy," she tried to run toward me, but a police officer gently held her back. "It's okay," I told her, forcing a calm smile I didn't feel. "I'm coming back." At that moment, I wasn't worried about myself. I was worried about the frightened little girl watching strangers treat her father like a criminal. My name is Daniel Carter. I was 38 years old, a widowed single father, a former military communications specialist who now worked as an independent cybersecurity consultant. For the past 5 years, my entire life had revolved around one person, my daughter, Emma. After my wife passed away from cancer, Emma became my reason to keep moving forward. Every morning, I made her breakfast. Every evening, I helped with homework. Every weekend, we explored parks, museums, or anywhere that didn't cost much money. Life wasn't luxurious, but it was peaceful, until one ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Emma had just finished her piano lesson downtown. As we walked through Riverside Park toward the parking lot, she suddenly pointed toward a wooden bench. "Daddy, someone forgot their bag." A black leather briefcase sat alone beside the bench. I looked around. The nearby walking paths were almost empty. No one appeared to be searching for it. I waited nearly 15 minutes. Still no one came. "Maybe we should give it to the police," Emma suggested. "Let's first see if there's any identification." I carefully opened the outer pocket without disturbing anything else. Inside was a business card. Victoria Ashford, Chief Executive Officer, Ashford Global Holdings. Even I recognized the name. Victoria Ashford regularly appeared on magazine covers and business television programs. She was one of the country's youngest billionaire CEOs. A quick internet search showed she was hosting a charity gala at the Grand Monarch Hotel, less than 3 miles away. "Perfect," I said. "We'll return it personally." Emma smiled proudly. "We're helping someone." Exactly. When we arrived at the hotel, luxury cars filled the entrance. Photographers crowded behind security barriers. Guests wearing elegant evening clothes walked along a red carpet. I suddenly felt out of place in my jeans and work boots. Emma looked down at her simple blue dress. "Daddy, do we look okay?" I smiled. "We're here to do the right thing." That's always enough. A security guard stepped forward. "Can I help you?" "I found this briefcase in Riverside Park. It belongs to Ms. Ashford." The guard examined the business card. His expression immediately changed. "Please wait here." Several minutes later, Victoria Ashford herself walked through the revolving doors surrounded by assistants, lawyers, and reporters. She wore an elegant white suit and expensive diamond earrings that sparkled beneath the camera flashes. The guard pointed toward me. "This gentleman found your briefcase." Victoria smiled politely as she accepted it. "Thank you." For a brief moment, I thought the situation was over. Then she opened the briefcase. Her smile disappeared. She searched inside quickly. Once. Twice. Then looked directly at me. "Where is it?" "I'm sorry. The encrypted flash drive." "I don't know what you're talking about." "It was inside this case." "I never looked inside." She slowly closed the briefcase. "You expect me to believe that?" I remained calm. "I found it exactly as you see it." Victoria turned toward hotel security. "Call the police." Emma squeezed my hand. "Daddy, what's happening?" "I don't know. But everything will be all right." Within minutes, 2 officers arrived. They separated us while asking questions. I explained exactly where I had discovered the briefcase, how long we waited, how I identified the owner, how we drove directly to the hotel. One officer nodded thoughtfully. My story never changed. Victoria's attorney interrupted. "My client states an encrypted corporate drive worth millions disappeared while the briefcase was in his possession." I looked at him. "It was never in my possession. The briefcase was. Not whatever you're claiming was inside." Victoria crossed her arms. "The drive contains confidential company information. I suggest you cooperate." I answered honestly. "I can't tell you where something is if I've never seen it." Several reporters had already begun recording. One whispered loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. "So this is the guy who stole from the billionaire." Emma immediately shouted, "My daddy isn't a thief." The crowd turned toward her. Some looked sympathetic. Others simply continued filming with their phones. Then something unexpected happened. One of the officers quietly approached me. "Mr. Carter, your military service shows up in your background." I nodded. "Yes. And you're currently a licensed cybersecurity consultant?" "Correct." He frowned slightly. Then why would someone with your professional reputation risk stealing a flash drive in broad daylight? Before I could answer, Victoria interrupted. Because criminals don't always look like criminals. The officer reluctantly placed handcuffs on my wrists while the investigation continued. Emma started crying uncontrollably. As I knelt beside her, I whispered, "Remember what Mommy always said." She nodded through tears. The truth doesn't stop being true just because people don't believe it. Exactly. I kissed her forehead, then stood up. As officers guided me toward the patrol car, I suddenly remembered something. Earlier that morning, before finding the briefcase, my smartwatch had automatically recorded our entire walk through Riverside Park using its body camera feature, a security function I rarely used after consulting on high-risk cybersecurity cases. If the recording was still saved, it hadn't just captured me finding the briefcase. It had captured the person who secretly removed the missing flash drive only minutes before we arrived. And when investigators watched that footage, they would discover the thief wasn't a stranger hiding in the park. It was someone who had walked into the charity gala beside Victoria Ashford herself. AS officers escorted Daniel toward the patrol car. He remained surprisingly calm. "Officer," he said quietly, "before you take me to the station, there's something you need to see." The senior detective looked at him cautiously. "What is it?" "My smartwatch. It automatically records video during certain workdays. I forgot it was running." Victoria Ashford laughed. "So now we're making up spy movies?" Daniel ignored her. "The footage begins long before I found the briefcase." The detective exchanged a glance with another officer. After a brief discussion, they removed the watch and connected it to a department laptop. A small crowd gathered around the screen. The recording began. It showed Daniel and Emma walking through Riverside Park, laughing about Emma's piano lesson. Several minutes later, the camera captured the empty bench. But just before Daniel arrived, another figure entered the frame. A man wearing a dark suit hurried toward the bench. He looked around nervously, opened Victoria's briefcase, removed a small black flash drive, placed it inside his jacket pocket, then quickly walked away. The detective immediately paused the video. Zoom in. The image sharpened. Although the man's face was partially turned, it was clear enough for several people in the crowd to recognize him. Victoria's smile disappeared. "No," one of her assistants whispered. "That's Marcus. Marcus Reed, Victoria's longtime chief financial officer." The man had worked beside her for almost 15 years. The detective looked toward Victoria. "Do you know him?" She nodded slowly. "He's my CFO." Within minutes, officers located Marcus inside the charity gala. When confronted with the video, he denied everything. "I've never seen that flash drive." The detective calmly replied. "Then you won't mind if we search your jacket." Marcus suddenly ran. He barely made it 10 steps before hotel security tackled him. Inside his jacket, officers found the encrypted flash drive. The crowd erupted in shocked whispers. Daniel's handcuffs were removed immediately. "I'm very sorry, Mr. Carter," the detective said. "You were telling the truth." Emma ran into her father's arms. "I knew it." Daniel hugged her tightly. "I told you. The truth always catches up." Most people assumed the nightmare was over. It wasn't. The detectives asked their cybercrime unit to examine the recovered drive. Within hours, investigators discovered something unexpected. The drive contained thousands of financial records, hidden bank accounts, secret shell companies, false invoices, offshore transfers worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The detective called Daniel the following morning. "Mr. Carter, we'd appreciate your assistance." Because of his cybersecurity background, Daniel agreed to help investigators understand the encrypted file structure. Working alongside federal financial crime specialists, he noticed something strange. Many files had been altered recently. Someone had tried to erase evidence, but they hadn't finished. As the deleted records were recovered, a far larger picture emerged. Marcus hadn't been acting alone. For years, he had quietly diverted corporate money into offshore accounts. Then, whenever auditors questioned missing funds, he manipulated accounting records. The charity gala had been his final opportunity to destroy the flash drive before investigators executed a confidential search warrant later that week. When Daniel unexpectedly found the briefcase first, Marcus panicked. He removed the drive, then allowed Victoria to believe Daniel had stolen it. But the investigation uncovered another painful truth. Victoria herself hadn't participated in the fraud. She had simply trusted Marcus completely. She accused an innocent man without asking questions because she believed her own assumptions more than the evidence. Several weeks later, Marcus pleaded guilty to multiple federal financial crimes. His international network collapsed. Several accomplices were arrested. Billions of dollars in stolen assets were frozen. The story dominated national headlines. At a press conference, reporters expected Victoria to defend herself. Instead, she walked directly toward Daniel. Cameras flashed continuously. She stopped in front of him, then did something no one expected. She apologized. Publicly. I allowed fear, pride, and assumptions to replace fairness. I accused an innocent father. I can never undo that. She turned toward Emma. I'm especially sorry to you. Emma looked up at her father. Daniel nodded gently. The little girl quietly said, My mommy used to say people should apologize when they're wrong. Victoria smiled sadly. Your mother was wise. Several months later, Victoria established a new corporate policy requiring independent investigations before any employee, contractor, or visitor could be publicly accused of misconduct. She also created a legal assistance fund for individuals wrongly accused because of corporate negligence. Then she surprised Daniel with one final offer. I can't erase what happened, but I'd like you to help us build something better. She offered him the position of Director of Corporate Cybersecurity and Ethics. Daniel thought carefully before answering. I'm willing to help, but only if every employee, from the janitor to the CEO, is treated with the same respect. Victoria extended her hand. Agreed. Years later, Emma visited her father's office after school. On the wall hung a simple framed photograph. Not of awards, not of newspaper headlines. Just a picture of Daniel holding Emma's hand outside the courthouse the day he had been cleared. Below it was a small plaque that read, Truth doesn't become weaker because powerful people refuse to believe it. Emma smiled. I still remember that day. Daniel squeezed her shoulder. So do I. It taught us something important. What's that? He looked around the busy office. Power can make people feel untouchable, but truth has something stronger. Time. Because sooner or later, the truth always arrives. And on the day a billionaire laughed as an innocent single father was placed in handcuffs, she believed her power made her unbeatable. Instead, one forgotten recording exposed the real criminal, shattered a massive financial conspiracy, and proved that no empire built on false accusations can stand forever.